Scott, welcome back. Listen, it's July, but you're going to need booties in the winter time or the fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. And if you want 3D printed booties, there's a little bit of a lead time. And so now would be the time to get on colbyplus.com to order the 3D printed booty.
Yeah, I've pontificated on here about how great these booties are, and I've been lucky enough to have them for a season, and they are game changers. Like these things are molded to your foot. You put them on, they feel like a sock. I've never had anything that felt so form fitting and just perfect, like you painted it on your body, and super great traction and just next level, really, quite frankly. Like I said, game changer. I'm struggling coming up with better terms for it. They're going to blow your mind.
Well, so the board feel that you're talking about obviously is related to the fact that you take photos and video of your foot, you send them to Colby, they 3D print the outer shell so that it's form fitted to your foot, but it's really thin. The problem with thin is it's not durable, but then they add triple kind of areas of protection on the critical areas so that it adds the durability back to it. So you get the form fit, and then the exterior shell is thicker, so you get the durability out of it too. So they're just better across the board.
Yeah, I'm so unbelievably, because I've been a booty hater forever. Booties and I have never gotten along. And these are the ones that, because they cover the little bumps and crazy calluses, and frankly, I have some just crazy knobs on my feet that that made it so that conventional booties would restrict blood flow to my toes, and so I would be white-toed, completely numb, and I have booties on. I'm like, what good are these things if my feet are numb?
Yeah.
So I got these new Colby Plus custom-fitted 3D booties, and I'm just blown away. And frankly, I can't, I sense that these things are just going to take over the marketplace regarding booties.
Totally agree. Yeah, one reviewer on their website said it feels kind of bizarre at first because they fit so perfectly and snug. There's no width or toe pressure type of imperfections. The most noticeable difference is that there's no extra space to fill up with water for the foot to slip around inside. So very impressed, highly recommend, 5-star review. So anyways, Colby is spelled Colby, and it's colbyplus.com. Get yours now. Like I said, a little bit of lead time on those because they are 3D printed, but now is the time to grab them for the fall and the winter. And then Real Water Sports. I was just knowing that they kind of go through surfboards regularly or go through inventory regularly. I just went on right now and clicked the surfboard section. Christensons are populating the top spots, and gorgeous. I mean, bespoke individual artwork on each of these boards. Really, really cool stuff.
I'm going there right now. You mentioned the magic word Christensen, and I'm a huge fan.
Christensen Osprey, I've not seen before.
I think that's what I have. How big is it? Let me see here.
Like in the 6 to 7 foot range, depending.
Well, I've got a Christensen that I'm taking. I'm going to Indo here pretty soon, and the Christensen. I don't go to Indonesia without a Christensen. They're just like so pure. But yeah, I'm looking at their Real Water Sports website. Go there and check it out. They've got some incredible Christensen surfboards and many, many others, including Icon of Foam Maurice Cole. You're going to find some Maurice Coles there as well. And just ridiculously gorgeous surfboards.
The Osprey has 5 fin options, recommended to put a 5 fin box configuration so the board can be ridden as basically a quad or a thruster. But the twin fin is recommended for the surfer that prefers the looser board with less drag. And then you can also do it as a 3-fin bonzer. But basically it's made for where you're going. It's made for shoulder high to double overhead plus surf. The aesthetic outline is complemented by a low rail line and relaxed and continual rocker, which allows the board to surf with high-speed drive, trim control, and the ease of effortless style.
Yeah, I have the 6'6" Christensen Osprey. It's my go-to solid Indo wave board, and
Yeah.
it's really wonderful. And like I said, I'm super blessed to have these Christensen boards under my feet. They're magical.
Well, like I said last week, I was surprised to see Alex Lopez in the inventory too. So I had not seen Alex's name there before, but anybody from Bing to Channel Islands to Jerry Lopez, JS, Lost, Mandala, Mark Richards, as you mentioned, Maurice Cole, Paizel, Rawson, Ricky Carroll, Roger Hines, just quite the array of international brands down to small hand shapers, all available, and they ship anywhere in the world. 1,500 surfboard inventory at realwatersports.com.
I also see, I know you're ending this portion of our read, but I also see the Channel Islands Happy Traveler on Real Water Sports. Another board that I would highly recommend you take on your surf travels. And yeah, man, Real Water Sports, go check them out. They've got so many great surfboards. We're just barely scratching the surface here. You got to go check it out and froth out and do yourself a favor. You know what? Time is short. Life is short. Go get it.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy, David. Welcome to the show. It's Spit. It's the Spit podcast. It's July 8th, David, and this is the show where we talk a lot about surfing and a lot about, well, a little bit maybe about other stuff, but maybe not. Who knows? David, good morning.
Good morning, Scott Bass. I got an email. I don't think that it was sent to you. I think it was just to me, but can I read it for you?
Okay, sure. Let's have it.
Hey guys, I've been reading Surfer's Journal for decades and started to run out of room on my bookshelf for some old issues. I decided to reread some of the old issues before I got rid of them. The old issues have some fantastic stories in them, and they aren't as formulaic as the current ones. Anyhow, I got up to 2006 and happened to come across this picture of Scott. I hope that you enjoy and revisit if you want. I will gladly send this issue to Scott if he wants a copy. MJ sent this in. Do you have any idea what image I'm about to show you?
I think it's a divine photo of me doing stand-up paddling in Indo, maybe.
Not exactly, no. So here's the cover shot. Does that look familiar?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
There's the photo. I'll read the caption. A good or sound system empowered Scott Bass, check out the earbuds, is a common sight in Cardiff, California area. He is in the upper echelon of mainland stand-up practitioners.
Look at that. 2006. I got brown hair and I'm on a 2-foot wave.
Stylish kind of, I don't know if that's a drop knee cutback. It's more of like a cross step back while you're cut, or bottom turning, I should say. Stylish though. Good shot.
Yeah, thanks. That I don't know, that looks like it could be a Rusty that maybe Rusty made me, I think. Who knows?
It looks like a logo, but I think that's actually a traction pad, right? Like
it is a traction pad, yeah. That's a traction pad.
So Scott, number of questions I've got for you here. How proud were you to have that image published, first of all?
Well, definitely anytime, I'm vain enough to be pretty psyched when there's a photo of me in a surf magazine, but it's kind of sad. Like I'm trying to, I mean, as I grow, as I try to attempt to grow, I should say, I sometimes question my vanity and the purpose of my pride and how am I helping others by being prideful. And so at the risk of sounding too, I don't know what the word is.
Introspective.
Yeah, thank you. It's cool. Anybody's stoked to see a photo of them surfing, and I'm certainly one of them. And not everybody's stoked that there's a picture of somebody holding a paddle and standing up. But that was a part of my life, and I enjoyed the heck out of stand-up paddling. I did it for years. I actually don't even own a stand-up paddleboard anymore. I've kind of switched gears, and when it's small, I'll go foiling or whatever. But
so
yeah.
That leads me to my second question, thank you, which is, why'd you stop? Like, even if I stop, I don't know. I haven't bodyboarded in quite some time, but I still have a bodyboard handy. You know what I mean? Like, there's very few surf things that I full stop with. Why did you full stop with stand-up paddle?
It wasn't kind of like, I felt like I had gone to where there was no further place that I could go with it. Like I took my stand-up paddleboard to Indo and surfed, all these crazy waves that had never been surfed. And frankly, you wouldn't want to surf them unless you were on a stand-up paddleboard. They weren't necessarily great waves for surfing, but they were great waves for stand-up paddle. I kind of did it all, is what I'm saying, at least for me, like, and it wasn't, I just changed my outlook on things. It was just, I wanted to move on, I wasn't able to do my dance either. Like, I find that on a longboard, I think after this, I went to gliders. I started riding 12-foot gliders, and I found that I could just express myself a little bit more on a glider without a paddle in my hands,
Yeah,
and that was kind of part of it.
that's fair. Second question, did you dye your hair black?
No, but I'm thinking about doing that now.
It looks, I guess you're right. You said it was brown when I first showed you the image, and it's wet, so then it looks black, but it looks like dyed black hair to me.
It kind of does. I'm going to blame the printer,
Okay.
the guy, the printing company. They
Smart.
the photo. It's hard I think if you pull out the exposure, you're going to wash out the white water behind me. So they had to make sure the white water wasn't washed out, so the subject's a little darker.
Okay, smart. Number 2 or number 3, final question. Why'd you lose the audio headset?
I really enjoyed that. I kind of wish I still had that. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think it might have broken down or like the little O-ring that keeps the water out might have had some water infiltration, or I kind of forget why I stopped doing it, but I swim a little bit now to try to stay in the game, and I wish I had the H2O audio. That was H2O audio. I wish I still had that for swimming so I could listen. Oh, is that H2O audio?
I've got the new H2O audio ones from Florence.
Oh, see, and yeah, those are good in the water, right?
They're incredible, dude. I've never had anything like them. I guess this technology's been around forever or a long time, but it's bone conducting. There, you got some right there. Yeah.
Yeah, but these aren't waterproof.
Right. Yeah. So they're bone conducting, so they don't actually sit in your ear canal. They sit outside of it on the bone. And the benefit of it is that you can still hear all ambient noise. So if you're running, let's say, you can hear cars coming, basically. But the other cool thing is they're waterproof. So you could use them you could take a shower in them. You could do a stand-up paddle in them. But if you put earplugs in, you can actually swim and hear it underwater. Normally, if you go underwater without the earplugs, it'll somehow affect the bone conduction. But if you put the earplugs in, you can still like swim underwater and still hear the audio.
Are you doing that? Have you used them underwater?
Yeah, I swim.
And what kind of Yeah, go ahead.
I swim every day.
What kind of earplugs are you putting in? Are they like the foamy ones that you would put in at night or on an airplane?
No, they came with earplugs.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got to hook into that. I got to get that going on.
Yeah, this is not a paid advertisement, by the way. They did send me this just randomly for free. I got an email from them being like, "Hey, do you want to try out this product?" But
I want to try it out, Florence.
Yeah, it's a fantastic product. It was H2O Audio that reached out, not Florence themselves.
Well, my friends, like my friend Christian at H2O Audio, I don't know if he's still with the company. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to, I'll just pay for mine. I don't care. I need them basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so bored when I swim. I'm just fighting boredom. I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
How many more laps do I got to do?
Totally.
I think if I had music, it'd be better.
Yeah, it does help for sure. So I'm a big fan. I wouldn't have thought that I needed to fill that time with more stimulation, but it turns out it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I don't know why I get bored. But speaking of Indo, I went and purchased a new Patagonia Rashie for my Indo trip.
Fancy. I like it.
Right. It's kind of a absolute must-have for your trip. And
A rash
I got
guard?
some new shorts.
Look at you, man.
Patagonia.
Style.
And they're look at that, stretchy. If you're not be able to watch this on YouTube and you're listening at home, they're the stretchy material. I kind of went overboard. I just went, I'm going on a trip. All my stuff's kind of, you've seen it. It's all old and beaten, and I needed some new gear. So Patagonia has really great, SPF protection, sunscreen, Rashie with a hood.
Also not a paid advertisement, just a fan of the product. But I will tell you, I come back from like our Nicaragua trip looking like I got 0 sun exposure, which is what I recommend. I mean, look, everybody, you do you, you're on your own path, but I don't mind. I've given up the, vanity of trying to look bronzed and look good. I'm okay with being pasty if it means no skin cancer.
What do they call that? The bronze look of the well-to-do or something like that?
I don't know. It's the working class back in the day, but it's probably the well-to-do now. But the thing is, my point is that, these products that have they're imbued with S or UPF, I think, ultraviolet protection. You don't have to reapply sunblock. So obviously I'm putting sunblock on my face, but the rest of my body is pretty much just covered up. UPF 40. So that having to reapply all the time in the past was kind of a problem, especially if you're wet and you're in the middle of a session. But being able just to wear the rash guard or whatever it is and not have to reapply is a game changer. So I'm a big fan as well.
You know what else you and I really like is the zipper on the back.
Oh, yeah.
You know what goes in there?
Yeah, wax.
Chapstick.
Oh.
Chapstick for the lips. Got to keep those supple.
Wax protein bar.
Yeah. Actually, what goes in there a lot is Booties.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for getting in and out at the place I surf has some pretty gnarly reef. And then when you come in,
Well, can you talk more about where you're going or what you're bringing?
Yeah, I'm going to Surfing Village in the Telos Islands. I go there. This will be my 3rd trip there. And it's just a super fun place. The people there, Paulo and his brother, Nando, and all the folks there that run the camp are good folks. And it's just a fun place to hang out. Super fun surfing. A lot of Australian guys will be there. It's kind of a quick hop from Australia, so there'll be guys there on their holiday, and we'll all hang out and surf together. And they always have a pool tournament, every year. The whole group gets together for like a bracket, round-robin knockout pool tournament, and super fun waves. I mean, it's like anywhere, swell dependent, right? If there's swell, it's going to be fun. They're going to find you a spot. You know what's really cool about out there is there's a beach break out there. It's so trippy, like out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, there's a beach break, and that's kind of a trip too.
I know last time your son went with you. Is he able to go again?
No, I'm just going solo this time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also, last time you said you got like that crazy right, really great, perfect barrel, and you're like, you know what? I accept the fact that might be the last one of those I ever get in my life. I don't need to chase it anymore, and yet here you are chasing it again.
I know, and I still feel that way. And it's just random because I got a call from a buddy, a good friend of mine, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm going." But his son is one of the surf guides out there, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm going to go visit my son. Let's go. You and me." And I was thinking, I thought to myself, "Oh, you know what? He probably needs a partner, like a travel buddy." And okay, I almost, sadly took it like, okay, this is a sign that I should go, because I was planning on not going. Then I got a call and he's like, "Let's go, come on." And I was like, all right, let's just do, okay. It was like one of these, boom, I just made a decision. All right, I guess it was meant to be kind of thing. And then he pulled out after I bought my ticket and everything. He's like, "Oh, dude, I can't go anywhere." He's an LPGA caddy. He's a caddy for one of the really good golfers on the ladies' professional golf tour. And some event popped up that he wasn't planning on. And so now I'm going solo.
Well, What boards are you bringing?
Well, I'm bringing the Christenson Osprey, and I'm bringing the Channel Islands Happy Traveler, and I'm bringing a Rusty Twinser.
Perfect. Three-board quiver.
That's it. And, oh, by the way, I do want to give a shout out, again, unpaid. Channel Islands, they gave David and I the most unreal board bag that I've been traveling with for the last 2.5, 3 years. It is the best board bag. Those board bags are incredible. And I don't think people realize that Channel Islands, I believe they still have an accessory line, right?
Oh, yeah.
This board bag is hands down the best board bag I've ever had.
Yeah.
Wheels, lightweight, but super padded. I mean, they did it right. And they did it because they want their boards protected, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they did it was like you said, 2 or 3 years ago, they did a kind of big reinvestment in the whole accessories line, from traction pads to leashes to the board bags and everything else in between. The backpack, I use the backpack all the time. So yeah, I'm a big fan as well. And we probably haven't talked about it enough for how good they are. So you can go to cisurfboards.com if you want to grab one, but they're incredible.
Yeah, they really are. David, I can stump you if you're interested in being stumped. Every time I put this segment together, I wonder if it's a good segment for the listening audience or if it just bores the crap out of them.
I'll tell you why it's good, because I always tell you it's good, and then you always re-ask if it's good next week. I think it's always important to infuse tidbits of surf history into the show.
Right. Okay.
And so you've created a gamified way of doing it that I think is entertaining and valuable.
Okay, well, it's called Surfer X, and/or Who Said That. This specific iteration is going to be Surfer X. David, it's your chance to guess what famous surfer I'm talking about. And in this case, it's a shaper of surfboards. So here we go, David.
I'm going to too much already, giving me clues.
Okay, well, that part was going to be in there anyway. So, David, who is Surfer X? Here we go. Here's the bit I'm going to read you. Surfer X's fine-tuned boards were produced under a succession of short-lived backyard labels, including Country Spaceships, Spirit of the Sea, and White Light Projections. Surfer X, for the most part, built streamlined pintails, similar to those made by Hawaiian master shaper Dick Brewer, to whom Surfer X was often compared. Throughout the 70s, Surfer X made boards for many of the world's best surfers, including Wayne Bartholomew, Peter Townend, Joe Engel, Russell Hughes, Mike Tabling, and Michael Ho. His heyday as a board maker ended abruptly in 1979 when a factory fire destroyed most of his favorite surfboard templates. Surfer X continued to shape, but drastically reduced his output. In the late 90s, Surfer X began making high-end paddleboards. Not long after that, he began building boards for the Queensland's globe-hopping alternative pro surfer Dave Rostovich. David, who is Surfer X? Is it A, Sam Egan, B, Dick Van Stralen, C, Mitchell Ray, or D, Phil Byrne?
I would go Dick Van Stralen, probably.
That's correct, David. You've guessed correctly. You've nailed it. I failed to stump you in this exercise. Dick Van Stralen, legendary Queensland shaper.
So I went to Dick's factory in Queensland in 2018, maybe. Interviewed him for Surf Splendor, and still so many of those details that you shared were unknown to me. We didn't cover some of those.
What was it that made you realize it was Dick? Because I sense it wasn't a guess. Was it the Dave Rostovich bit at the end?
The fire, the Dave Rostovich bit, and I didn't know the names of his short-lived surfboard labels, but they all fit a theme of cosmos.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a giveaway for his just, the way that he views the world.
Yeah. Country Spaceships, White Light Projections, Spirit of the Sea. Those are cool names, man. Those names are coming back around. That aesthetic, you know.
For sure. And they definitely fit him. So that was like, those names were so specific that when you say Sam Egan, I'm like, no, it's definitely not Sam Egan. It's not Phil Byrne. Well, yeah.
Mitchell Ray Mitchell Ray's kind of in that same vibe.
Yeah. And yeah, the surfers who have ridden his boards also all aligned with him as well. He retired about 2 or 3 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you know, time moves on and he deserves to retire, I think.
Well, definitely. And almost I feel ashamed I never got a board because especially in the last decade or so, his boards are very, very interesting and like a style of boards that I would want to ride. But it was just kind of like, I'd see him and I'm like, yeah, I would love to get one, but I don't need a new board right now. I shouldn't spend money on a new board, but almost regret the decision.
I know. I have that feeling a lot of times about certain guys. And I was lucky enough to get a custom Dick Van Stralen from Dick. Sean Madison and I ordered some, I don't know, like right around the time of that photo of the stand-up paddle, like right around 2004 or something like that. There's actually a photo of me floating around with the H2O audio headset and the Dick Van Stralen surfboard. He made these carbon killer fishes that were amazing.
It's easy to talk ourselves into buying new surfboards, obviously, but
oh my God,
one of the main justifications I have is we're positioned in this era right now where pioneers of the sport, like early shapers, Skip Frye, let's say, Dick Van Stralen, are on the cusp of retirement. So I feel like this would be like early days of, I don't know, Apple or whatever, where you're like living in that area, Silicon Valley, and they're like, oh, there's this new tech startup, you know, like, do you have some money that you can invest into it? You're like, well, times are tight. I don't really want to invest. I would love to. I just can't afford it. Got to pay the mortgage or whatever. And then you look back and you go, wow, that was a dumb financial decision. I should have invested. That's kind of how I feel about some of these guys. I want to invest.
That's a great way to look at it. And, you know, I just was, as you were talking, I was riffing internally about who those guys are here in San Diego. And a bunch of names popped into my mind, like, you should get, if you live in San Diego, you should get a custom Skip Frye. You should get a custom Hank Warner. You should get a custom Bob Mitzvin. John Keyes comes to mind. You know, even Stu, although Stu Kenson's probably got some more years in him. I mean, these guys are, you know, now's the time. Get all those years of mastery. You know, and I know I've left out quite a few. I apologize. There's so many guys here in San Diego that are legendary. And yeah, Steve Liss. Get a Steve Liss.
Well, yeah, Steve came back out of retirement essentially, so now's the time for that one. But
I'll tell you one too. Bill Menard. Guys, Bill Menard's made me some of the most incredible surfboards I've ever had in my life. They're incredible.
Yeah, so you have to be financially responsible, obviously, but my
wait.
My argument is this is being responsible. This is an investment. And Scott can speak better than anybody about the resale market on kind of iconic or, you know, historic surfboards through the California Gold Surf Auction. But again, surfing has moved to a place now where Paris Hilton is riding with Raymana in the wave pool. Like, it's broad culture. So I would predict, don't trust me for your financial advice, but I would predict that these kind of early icon shapers, pioneers of the sport, will go up in value.
Yeah, Michael Barron is another name that comes to mind. You're right, David. You know what? And these guys are such great guys, too, to just be able to hang out with them, pick their brain. They've got so many stories. Hank Warner's got so many wonderful stories. And they all do. All of them do. And
well, in regard, while we're on the subject of Skip Frye.
by the way, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I wanted to mention some other.
Yeah, he wants to mention.
I don't want to interrupt your Skip Frye discussion.
No, you start.
See this right here? Crucial for traveling.
Starbucks.
Premium Starbucks instant coffee. Boom.
You just mix it with water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coffee. It's coffee.
Well, I don't know. You don't have to steep it. You don't have to brew it.
No, it's
You just-
instant.
I've never had instant coffee, so I'm just verifying. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
Electrolytes. I've become
crucial travel items.
I've become a fan of electrolytes, dude. I thought I didn't need them, or I thought it was a bunch of I don't know, hokum. But now I'm like, I do it every single day.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm a huge fan too.
Yeah.
And then hold your thought on Skip,
Okay.
and we're going to come right back. We're going to be right back.
Teaser to the Skip Frye conversation.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back to you. So, Skip was the most recent guest on Pinch My Salt.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you saw that or not. They just started advertising it yesterday.
Oh, that's great.
He's so jovial, so unpretentious. His aura is just friendly, like humble, gracious. Like he is a great figure in surfing.
Yeah, great figure in life. I mean, those are traits that I hope to attain at some point, you know, that sense of kindness and humility, and it's wonderful.
Humility is the word. He's 84 years old, and he's like, you know, they'll ask him something for advice or whatever, and he'll kind of always start with, I don't know anything, and then he'll give his version of experience or whatever, but then follow with, I'm 84 years old and I just figured that one out. Like I am still learning. I'm constantly in this position of just trying to understand things, which I think is so refreshing because it takes the pressure off when you're 44 thinking that you need to have your life figured out that you never really do. You know, you're just always kind of trying to get by or figure it out.
Yeah, I think as soon as you think you've got it figured out, you're in deep trouble. You know what I mean? At least that's my sense of my experience, my life experiences. Probably the greatest sentence that ever came out of my mouth was, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Skip's a guy who a lot of people would point to as, you know, like I said, a pioneer in a lot of ways and has had a lot of success. He doesn't view it that way. So I think that's kind of the interesting thing about life, or that's the definition of humility, I guess. But in regard to ordering a board from him, that's why I brought up his name is, he said he has an 8-month wait list. He has 8 month. He said he shapes one board a day, or at least tries to shape one a day. And he's currently working 6 days a week, and he has 8 months worth of orders. So good luck.
That's so cool. Good for him.
Yeah.
I have in the California Gold Surf Auction, which is happening in October, there's a 1970 Skip Frye Gordon and Smith egg round board that's in really great condition, super clean, got a kind of a groovy, like acid splash, resin swirl. And so you can pick up a absolutely vintage Skip Frye in there.
Yeah, and on Instagram, Surfboard Rack, also our buddy Kenny runs that Instagram account, and he's longtime good friends with Skip, and he gets like used skips. I'm not sure if people are offering them up through him or how he actually gets them, but he always has access to stuff and he posts it on there. So there'd be a way to get a secondhand one if you didn't have 8 months to wait, or potentially more than 8 months, depending on who gets prioritized in that order.
Yeah, absolutely. Surfboard Rack, Instagram, check that out.
But
Kenny's
look,
always got good stuff there.
and also we don't hear enough from Skip publicly. And so if you do want to hear from him, or you've heard his name and not heard him speak in the flesh, you can find that on YouTube on Pinch My Salt's account.
Okay, well, let's check that out for sure. Other news, David. Kelly Slater, David. The World Surf League has awarded Slater a wild card into the 2026 Outer Known Tahiti Pro, which is set to run August 8th through the 18th at, of course, world-famous Teahupo'o, placing the 5-time event winner back in one of the heaviest lineups in professional surfing. Do you know how old Kelly Slater is, David?
I'm going to say 54.
That's correct. 54, David. And do you know what his most recent health situation involves?
Childbirth.
You're right. He gave birth to a child. And that's one of the amazing facts that people don't know about Kelly is that he actually gave birth to a child. No, beyond the childbirth, which is, deserves kudos. He's returning from hip surgery. So he had, I guess, hip replacement surgery. And of course, he is balancing a new family member. I don't know, Dave. 54 years old, Teahupo'o. I seem to ask you this every time we bring him up in the competition arena. It's usually either Pipeline or here or Cloudbreak. And I'll ask you again, and I feel like this time things may have changed, but I'm going to ask you, can Kelly Slater win this event?
No. And I agree with you. This time things have changed. Every other time you've asked me this question in the last 5 years, the answer is, in most venues on tour, no, Kelly is not a threat. But in this venue on tour, Kelly is a threat. Pipeline, Teahupo'o, Cloudbreak, Kelly's still a threat. He's actually not only the most decorated at these locations in terms of stats and contest wins, but these places require time in the lineup, and he has more time in the lineup than anybody. And at a certain age, at this style of wave, you're not gyrating much. Like you want to be in position, you want to be able to mitigate against wipeouts and disaster, and time in the water equals those things. So he'll be able to put himself in a position for the 10-point ride better than anybody else, and he'll be able to get to his feet and navigate the barrel better than anybody else. All of that was true up until now. So all of that was true for the past 5 years whenever I answer the question. The hip surgery, the time out of the water, the focusing on the family, all of those things, I think will lower his aptitude or level of kind of prowess just enough to no longer be a significant threat in this, especially when you consider who is the competition. The Gabriel Medina, the Jack Robinson, Iago, Italo, those guys are on a level that was really nipping at the heels of Kelly even in his prime. Now Kelly isn't in his prime in 5 different ways, therefore no longer a threat.
Yeah, and I mean, there's quite a few other guys we could throw in there, like Baron Mamiya and Griffin and, dare I say, Leo even? Emio, who won the Tahiti Pro Trials, will be in the event. Emio Surzamak. He had 2 perfect 10s.
Yeah, Al Cleland Jr., you're right. Like I mentioned the top 5. It's not even just the top 5 anymore. In a wave like this, there's 20 that are legit threats.
Who would you want to draw in this event? Like, who are the guys that you're like, no problem, that's going to be handled?
So me personally?
No, if you're Kelly Slater or anybody, any of these guys.
If I was Kelly Slater, I would look at the list and I would think Rio Waida, Alejo Muniz, Jordy Smith, Luke Thompson, Oscar Berry. But that's kind of it.
What about Philippe?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Philippe. That would be actually one of the top. I would want him more than anybody else. But look, Kaiuli Vost sitting in 14th, he would be somebody I'd bet money on to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Connor O'Leary, Cole Houshman.
It feels like there's absolutely, at a wave of this consequence, a wave that's difficult to surf. In the past, we've gone, okay, there's 2 guys, or there's 3 guys, It seems like now there are solidly 8 guys that you're like, yeah, that's not only could I see that happening, I would, that makes sense. It's not a long shot. It's not a long shot.
So there's more than 8 guys that I would actually bet on above Kelly. which
Really?
I've not been able to say in the past.
Who are they? Well, you kind of mentioned them already.
Well, look, I'll go down the list real quick. I would bet Leonardo would be a 50-50, to be honest. Leonardo Fioravanti, I know he's done well at pipe, but I think like that was backdoor performance largely. So Italo, I'd bet to beat Kelly, Yago, Gabriel, Miggy, Griffin, Jack Robinson, Kaiuli Vost, Connor O'Leary, Baron Mamiya. There's 10. Al Cleland would be a 50-50. I don't know. There's
What about What about Joao Chianca?
It's a 50-50 for me. Joao could definitely beat him. Joao's current form versus Kelly's current form. But let's take a moment. We're heaping criticism on Kelly. Let's take a moment to acknowledge 5 event victories over the span of 16 years. His first event win here was in the year 2000, then 2003, 2005, 2011, 2016. He excels again at positioning in the lineup due to that, 16-year reign. So the ability to kind of read the reef and then different swell directions is the other thing. Unless you live out there and experience it in all those different seasons, coming in as a C tier and surfing it 2 times a year, let's say, doesn't give you that wide of a range of experience.
No.
So, and then kind of the thing that nobody else has on him is ultra precision, deep barrel riding. Like once that guy's in the pit, nobody's going to navigate it out of the barrel like Kelly could and probably still can, to be honest. Calm decision-making under pressure is also a forte that he has in spades over anybody else, along with competitive strategy. Gabriel Medina might be there with him in terms of competitive strategy. So those are all things that still, I think, favor him. Whether or not his body is up to conditioning remains to be seen.
Well, I'm going to push back just a little bit here because you said that nobody can navigate the barrel like him. And I would suggest to you that and I think if you reflect on it too, you might change your position because I think Kaolu Vast, I think, frankly, Emil Surzamak, I think there are guys that can navigate that tube as good or better than a 54-year-old Kelly Slater. I think there's an even playing field there.
That's fair. If he draws those two. I thought it'd be worth noting, or it is worth noting, his first perfect heat ever came in a final at this venue in the year do you remember the year?
Yeah, 2006, I think.
2005.
It was against Bruce Irons.
No, it was 2005 against Damian Hobgood.
Oh, okay.
So the 2006 one might have had that. That's correct as well, but this was his first one in 2005.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that footage. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see hair on his head.
Here's his final against Damo. The waves are pumping through the event, but they got a little bit smaller during the final. Kelly, I think, opens with this, might be a 9-point something, and then eventually gets 2 10s. The other thing to note in this event is just look at how different the board was that he was riding. It's longer. It's way more rockered out. I think that you actually see some of the limitations of that board as he tries to do cutbacks and kind of hit the lip. It just won't make the angle that he needs to make. But he does find the 2 set waves, which allow him to get the 2 10-point rides. But like, look, he's coming back. He can't get back into the rebound because of that length of that board.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And you'll see it some more on the future waves.
Okay, that one was sick right there. That was probably a 9 or whatever. Yeah.
So the first one I think was the 9.5, then that would have been the 10. And then he finds himself another set wave. Not this one, but
pretty dreamy for these two because it's basically 4 to 6 feet and super glassy, like a gray glassiness, which makes it kind of easy.
Yeah, this was the other set wave that kind of double the size, but kind of almondy at the top. So not as gnarly as some of the other ones, but they gave him a 10 for it because it was bigger.
Oh, that was a long one. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I thought the Bruce Irons final, of course, the Bruce Irons final, he was comboed. He needed, I think, 2 10s. I could be wrong. I know he won the heat needing, like a 19.8. It might have been like a 9.5 and a 10, but was it 2 10s that he got against Bruce Irons?
I don't remember, but the question was which was the first perfect heat, and so that was the first perfect heat.
Wow, good for him. I mean, look, he's somebody to watch out for. I guess the next question is, if he's not somebody that you think is going to win, how far does Kelly Slater go in this event?
Not to the quarters, whatever is before the quarterfinals, round of 16.
Okay, fair enough. So a victory for him is making the quarters in your eyes?
No, I think for him a victory needs to win the event. But if he makes it into the quarters, he would surpass my expectation. Look, I'm glad to see him. I'm glad that I think even when he retired, we said we'd like to see him in wildcards at the best events on the planet. And so here we are. So I'm glad to see this. And I think he's a great addition to the event. And making it up to that round is still a good use of the wildcard, probably.
Is this wildcard because it's his company that's sponsoring it, Outer Known? I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think that he's physically an A plus, like he's completely rehabbed his hip and he's been surfing a lot and he's been at Cloudbreak, or maybe he's been at some other reef passes and he's ready to go and he's at the top of his game? Like, are you sensing that they're just shoving him in there because it's Outer Known and he's going to give it his best, but he's not completely prime and ready to go? For what? I have a sense of that for nothing but a gut instinctual thing that could be completely off.
I don't think Kelly would do the event if he felt like he was not going to be able to compete at the highest level. But I don't think that he's been preparing in those ways. I think that he's at a point in his abilities and career where he knows he doesn't have to prepare in those ways. Now, are they shoving him in because it's an Outer Known event? Not exactly. I think that Outer Known, through his kind of influence, sponsors this event because it's his pet event. So that happened first, and he wants to always compete in his pet event. So he sponsored it because he loves the spot and has a connection to it, and then knows that he'll have access as a wild card, and then opts in if he's feeling conditioned for it. And I think that he is feeling like he can compete. But again, that's me guessing what his thought process is. My personal opinion is that he may be able to compete, but not at the level to win the event.
Well, we shall see. It'll be interesting. It's always fun to throw Kelly in the mix for sure. And I personally am rooting for him to win the event. I would love to see a 54-year-old professional surfer take down these young guns and macking, 8-foot Teahupo'o. I think it'd be great. Excuse me. I think it would be great and it would be fun. And I'm always rooting for the old guy.
And look, just to call out my own failures in the past, when he was 51 and Pipeline was pumping, I laid out pretty much a similar criticism that he wouldn't be able to win that event. And he did it in heroic fashion, free falling into the barrel on double overhead backdoor, and won it a few days before his 52nd birthday. So he's proved me wrong.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. So we know he's got the chops. And, of course, he looks good surfing in his free surfs when you see him wherever it is. Speaking of old guys, there is a young gal, Miss Teahupo'o, who won the Tahiti Pro trials as well. So we've got this young gal. I forget her name. Do you know her name?
I'll look
She
it up.
goes by Miss Teahupo'o on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah, I remember last year leading up to this event, she had also won, and I mentioned her just like you're doing to me now. And you're like, why are you following a 12-year-old girl on Instagram? That was your criticism last year. And now here you are talking about a 13-year-old girl on Instagram. Her name is Kelia Gallina.
And obviously a local gal. And, I mean, between her and Vahini Fierro, we've got a couple of specialists out there. I don't know how the bracket's made up. Wouldn't that be great if it was those two gals in the final? I think that would be really cool for the island of Tahiti to have those two local heroes in the finals together. That would be sweet.
It'd be insane. I would like to say it's an unbelievable the waves that children are surfing nowadays. Again, I think she's 13 years old. She might be 14, or she'll be 14 next month, I think. And then somebody sent me a clip of somebody else, some like 8-year-old surfing in Indo, getting like these crazy barrels.
I saw that too.
Yeah, somebody's like, this kid's literally 4 years older than Austin. Can you imagine Austin doing anything near that at that age? I'm like, no, I would be scared out of my mind as a parent. Like, I know at a certain point, like if they're passionate about it, you encourage their passions. And if they're skilled at it, then they're able to do it. And they're also so bendable and bones don't break as easily at that age, you know, like they're not all stiff. So there's less of a threat, but it is so scary to think of being the parent and watching your 14-year-old daughter surf Teahupo'o. That sounds crazy.
I totally agree with you. And I asked you to think about what you were doing when you were 8 years old, and are you still doing that thing? And that's my only, and I don't have a beef, but I always think, man, I hope you don't burn these kids out. You know, like if you're getting stand-up barrels at bank vaults and you're 8 years old, when you're 25, you've kind of done it all. You're probably over it, and you might take up bowling or dart throwing or something. Who knows?
So back to the Skip Frye conversation on Pinch My Salt. One conversation that they had was, I've never gotten tired of it. Like Skip's like, I go down to the ocean, I go down to the beach and I look at the ocean, and it's still fascinating to me. Like it still is a draw. It's a magnetic pull that I go down, and it's calming and it's fascinating and it's interesting, and I'm trying to navigate it. And it's like, how has it not gotten old after all this time?
Yeah, that's the only, I think, valid sort of criticism to what I was suggesting, is that this is a special thing. This isn't bowling. This isn't baseball. This is something much bigger than us. And good for the young man and girl. Let's hope they continue their passion.
And the old man, Kelly Slater. Welcome back.
And Skip.
Skip, the even older man.
Yeah.
If we're done talking about that, well, by the way, for the listeners, that starts, what is it?
August 8th.
August 8th. Okay. So we got some time. Scott should be back from Indo by then. I got an email, I'm not sure if it came to you or not, about our conversation about measuring big waves in relation to the Stab magazine, How Surfers Get Paid episode we were talking about. Did you get this email about big wave measurement?
I don't think I did.
Let me read it to you, and I'm also going to play a video in the background while I'm reading. So enjoy this. Let me turn the volume down. Dear Scott and Chop Hawk, thank you for that. Longtime listener since 2013, and I just listened to your show about big wave surfing. I find it comical and discouraging that the surf world still believes that it is impossible to objectively measure big waves. I have reached out to you guys about my work in this field years ago, and my tech has even been featured in Stab magazine. The problem with adapting objective wave height has nothing to do with tech. The problem is due to the fact that the industry is unwilling to accept a solution that takes power away from their subjective decision-making process. They do not want to democratize the process. The unwillingness to utilize the tech spans across contest leagues and, quote, science providers across the surf industry. I received bogus reasons for not wanting to use my tech, which is called the Henet drone-based aerial buoy, and they ranged from uncertainty related to errors. The irony is that those who criticize the error use an antiquated system of subjective estimates that consist of eyeball estimates, where error is at least 10%, which can be up to 6 to 8 feet depending on the wave size. Our system uses a calibrated sensor with a factory set error of 4 centimeters. We validated the error, and noticed that the actual error is much more like 8 to 10 centimeters, which is still light years ahead of their 6 to 8 feet. One online, quote, forecast service preferred to use their handwritten eyeball estimates to validate their models rather than using an objective and tech-based option, which, by the way, we offered our services as a free demonstration product. I could go on forever about the responses. All right, continuing the email. Also, I fully agree that big wave surfing does not need wave heights, but wave heights are a requirement if surfers are being judged and awarded by the size of the wave ridden. Imagine if the Olympics counted Usain Bolt's finishing time by counting on their finger. This is essentially what is happening in the current state of professional big wave surfing. It is an embarrassment and a total insult to the surfers and fans. Take a look at a few teaser videos. He linked me to a Red Bull collaboration that he had done, and then the video that I just showed you as well, which is available on YouTube. I will link to that in the show notes. Yeah guy, Teddy Allen. You can find him at teddyallen.com.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't use Teddy's technology, at the very least, as part of a conglomeration of other ways that they measure the waves. You know, like you would just add that to the mix at the very least. And it sounds like if worst case scenario is you're off by 10 centimeters, that Teddy's technology should be given a very hard look. And I mean, we got thousands and thousands of dollars on the line, and people's careers, people's ability to continue to do what they love for perhaps another 2 years or so, based on these award prizes that they're giving out. So I don't understand why they wouldn't, and I'm sure there's, who knows? I really have no idea why they wouldn't use it.
Well, Teddy's suggestion, I think it was pretty blatantly stated, is that they don't want to transfer any of the power or decision-making process to a third party, basically.
That's basic. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. So Henet Wave is HENET wave.com. That is his drone buoy measuring system that he is talking about. So go ahead, check that out if you're more interested, or if there's any, award related decision makers out there who want to kind of create a more objective system of measurement. Look into this as an option.
Yeah, it seems like the surfers would get behind this, and it seems like I can see how this is a threat to the powers that be.
Yeah. Or a tool.
That's what it should be. Come on. We're just trying to get to the bottom of those wave heights. Just bring them on board.
Absolutely. Seems valuable to me. Scott, anything else before I tell you about my newest episode of Surf Splendor that's coming out later today?
Yeah, couple things. I have a must-see moment, but before we get to that, I want to tell you about the Best in Show board build-off presented by Real Water Sports. Of course, at the Boardroom Show each year, we do a Best in Show exhibit and competition. We're asking each and every surfboard builder in the world to enter a big wave gun, a Super El Nino big wave gun. It's free to enter. This is a great opportunity for you to have a board on display at the Boardroom Show in our large exhibit, Best in Show board build-off presented by Real Water Sports. All you got to do, send me an email that says, I'm entering a board, and you're in. It's free to enter. Board builders around the world. We've got some great entries coming in. We're very excited about it, and we want to include your Super El Nino big wave gun in this exhibit, so reach out. In addition, David, I've got a must-see moment.
I'd love to hear it.
I'm in the process of getting fired up on my surf trip, so I've been watching some stuff. I feel like you may have spoken about this. Ritualistic Tendencies. Did you bring this? Is this one of your must-see moments?
Yeah, from 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Wow. I just came across my algorithm. But look, you can check it out on YouTube, the Ritual Vision YouTube channel. This features Harry Bryant, Noah Dean, Mikey Wright, Mason Ho, many, many others, in a variety of different surfing locations, Western Oz, Morocco, so forth and so on. And, of course, there's some world-class surfing, and it's getting me fired up to do a bottom turn. You know what I'm saying?
To do a boost to huge air?
No, just a bottom turn. I will be ecstatic if I can get to my feet without back pain, and that's my goals are very low. My bar is low.
Those guys started a sunglass company, so the way that I remember pitching it to you was like, These are all guys, like, it's kind of Australian, focused, let's say, or Australian dominant surfers.
Yes.
Guys that I've seen like over here, over there, a little bit on Instagram. I'm like, who's Lungi Slab? I guess I'll follow him, but I don't know. It's like all these buddies who just were like, we want to go on surf trips together and we want to make films together. Let's just start a brand so that we can do all these things as a team, essentially. And they assembled one of the raddest teams I've seen in a very long time. And it is centered around that eyeglass company. But their first film is an absolute banger. Like, it's the best surf film I've seen in a long time. That Greenbush, I don't know if you finished the film yet, but the Greenbush section, I've never seen Greenbush that big. And those guys are not afraid. Harry Bryant's not afraid.
Yeah, that's so crazy. That it's funny, when you think about a bunch of surfers are like, damn, we got to keep the dream alive here. How do we keep going? Sponsors are dropping like flies. Let's just do our own thing. There's a few, products that have large margins, right? Sunscreen, drinks, beverages, right? And sunglasses, massive margins, like 60, 70, 80% margins on these products. So, makes sense if you're going to go there that these are the ones you want to try to create.
Yeah. And the model is already built. Like,
yeah,
you got to come up with the design. You order from the same factories in Asia. So it's all just becomes a marketing exercise of how do you market your product.
I will say the one thing you got to be careful of, alcohol sales, specifically beer sales, have dropped off a cliff. And I know some of these guys started getting into beer companies and even tequila companies. And apparently the generation of 20-somethings that are coming into their own are not into drinking alcohol the way that we were when we were 20 years old. And that's kind of fascinating. So, some of those... some of those beer brands have just kind of not done so well, and hard liquors, it's just not what they're doing. They're looking after their bodies.
Yeah, exactly. If you are getting into that game, you're well late to the game. The greatest kind of warning was St. Archer. All the surf and skate guys who got into St. Archer, thankfully, made a 10x return on that when it sold to Anheuser-Busch, but within 2 years, Anheuser-Busch killed the brand. St. Archer doesn't even exist anymore. So it's like, that was the first warning shot for anybody who is starting to invest in that space, where it's like, if Anheuser-Busch is willing to pay, I forget what they paid, crazy number, $200 million to buy St. Archer, something like that. And then within 2 years, it's like, we're just going to flush that money down the drain because the market's seizing at this point.
Yeah.
Scary.
It's fascinating, and it kind of blows my mind. Like, what are these young people doing?
Smoking weed, taking edibles.
Weed
is legal. Weed is legal, and there's no hangover in the morning.
Right. Or do you partake in the weed?
Not really. No.
What do you mean, not really? That's either yes or no.
No, I mean, look, I'm fascinated by all of it. Like the implications of all of it. But I'm also personally not compelled to explore that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think what
about microdosing? Are you microdosing?
This is actually the perfect segue into, I was saying, my latest episode of Surf Splendor. I'll give you a teaser right now.
Okay.
Ben Bourgeois is the guest.
Love that guy.
Great the best, guy. Right? Yeah. Like, so my entry point for Ben, or the reason I was interested in interviewing him, was he's 47 years old, and like usually he was a A-list high-level pro surfer in the 90s and the 2000s, like really unbelievable A-list like talent. Usually anybody that we've seen of that era or generation has settled down and domesticated. Like, they locked down a location, they got married, they had kids, whatever, and their surfing is kind of gone, downhill essentially. He's somebody who still lives out of a suitcase. And like he'll post clips on Instagram and his surfing is still at the highest level, like the same it was 2 decades ago. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, how is he still surfing at that high level? But also, what is compelling him to still travel 10 months out of the year, 11 months out of the year? That is kind of crazy, right? So I get him on the phone or I get him on Zoom and we have the conversation. And what comes up in the conversation is he got sober from alcohol 8 years ago. And his story of how and why and the rock bottom is crazy. Like really, really, really interesting and scary. But his method was ayahuasca trip. Or I should restate, he did not say ayahuasca and he did not tell me ayahuasca. He said plant-based medicine. So he goes on this plant-based medicine trip that, in his own words, scared him in a way that he's never been scared in his life, and never even had an impulse to drink alcohol again. Like coming out of the trip, he had to go through a detox, which he didn't anticipate, but like there's actual like real medical detox that you have to persevere. But when he came out of that, or even in that, but when he came out of that, never once has even craved a sip of alcohol again. That's how effective it was. So your question to me is like, or my answer to your question is super compelling or interesting, but I also am not in a position where I feel like I need to go on that journey, you know? Like I'm very interested in the implications for it, and I would like for science to study it better so that I understand it better. And maybe there, to your microdose question, maybe there becomes a point in the future where microdosing seems like a happy medium stepping point to where, oh, okay, I'll dabble in that. I'm currently at a phase of my life where I don't have the desire or the need to heal something. And there's enough of it that's not studied that feels like a risk to me, to where I don't want to necessarily dabble with the unknown. But I also fully believe those who have tried it and spoken passionately to me about it, I do believe, and I like think I'm fascinated by it. I want to learn more or understand more. And I think that there's a lot of health implications for it in the future. We're just not there yet for me personally.
Well, first of all, I'm very much looking forward to listening to this episode. When do you launch this episode? And today. Is there, does Ben speak about a spiritual transformation that occurred?
Yes.
Okay. This is fascinating to me.
And it all developed through a conversation of like, how do you develop your surfing? And he's like, his answer real quick was like, it's an inward journey. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, these kids who are like, it's great to get coaching from Gerlach or whatever you're going to do, like at that level to do the technical stuff. But he's like, for me personally, that maxed out. And I was just hitting that like red line for years, a decade, until I did the inward work, you know, and the inward work all of a sudden blossoms all of these other things. And I'm like,
he had to reach a bottom or a very low point in his life for him to have the compulsion to do the inward work. And through that inward work, there was a spiritual transformation that occurred.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of William James? Varieties of Spiritual Experience?
No.
I think I'm getting his name right, but he was a renowned psychiatrist, William James. He wrote a book called Varieties of Spiritual Experience. I'll just leave it there. He's in that world. He's very, very famous.
Okay. Well, the other thing that we kind of came to in the conversation was that inner work needed to be done for Ben, aside from the alcoholism. Yeah. The alcoholism became a trigger point that forced him to address it. But we were also talking about like how many people who don't have the alcoholism never do the inner work because they're never in a pain point to force it, but they're kind of, that throttle is still redlining in their own personal development or even athletic development or whatever else, like they've succeeded a certain amount in life and they're in their mid 40s and they're like, well, this is good enough. I'm doing better than a bunch of my peers. I can continue to just perform at this level and live a reasonably happy life, never being forced to do the inner work that could be related to childhood trauma or whatever, but it wasn't significant enough to like really set things off in your life or set you off track. They're just copacetic, And so he was almost grateful to have had this alcoholism that required it got him so far off the track that he was required to do the inner work.
Yeah. And that's one of the sort of foundational themes of William James's very famous work, Varieties of Spiritual Experience, is that there are different types of spiritual experiences. They happen over here, they happen this way, they happen that way. But to a man, each and every spiritual experience, there's one common theme, and that is sort of a bottom, a low point in one's life, where they're so hurt that they have to look inwardly. And anyway, there's more to it, but I won't get into it. But yeah, it's William James. I'll give you a real quick. He was an American philosopher and psychologist, the first educator to offer a psychology course in the United States. And he is considered to be one of the leading thinkers in the late 19th century and one of the most influential philosophers, often dubbed the father of American psychology. The essay, Varieties of Religious Experience, an investigation of different forms of religious experience, including theories on mind cure. So, very famous, both author and book.
I should have known who he was. I'm embarrassed.
Well, that was a reach. I mean, I couldn't stump you on Surfer X, so I stumped you on Psychologist X.
I do have a bachelor's degree in psychology, which is why I should have known that.
Oh my God, you're kidding. You never heard of William James? He's the father of modern psychology.
I can't say I've never heard of him. It's just the information, if I had heard of him, has since left my brain.
Yeah.
Well, Ben Bourgeois, look forward to that later today, but I'm continually impressed and grateful that people get so freaking candid in these interviews because it was deep. Like I finished recording, walked out, talked to my wife, and I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Like that was gnarly, like in the best, in the very gratifying way. But man, oh man, wow, this is impactful conversation that I don't feel like is happening anywhere else in the surf world. So I'm grateful for it.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm also looking forward to later today. I actually record with Jeannie Chesser.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be a deviation.
I think they're doing a Todd Chesser documentary, I believe. I don't know. Ask her about that. But I think somebody's doing that. I'm not. Don't pin it on me. But I've heard that through the grapevine.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's also mention the Surfrider Foundation. I also do a podcast with the Surfrider Foundation, and we're releasing an episode today as well, which is about the beach cleanup work that they do, which is really foundational to the organization. And the data that they collect from that beach cleanup, or they started actually measuring and collecting the data a decade ago or so. And that data has been foundational in getting legislative change, dollars allocated, all sorts of important stuff because the numbers are just so compelling. And when you pick up trash on the beach, it's like, oh gosh, there's still 1,000 other pieces of trash. Like, what am I really doing? Like, I'm not really making that big of a change. But when you look at the numbers, the data that they do collect, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds of trash collected each year. So it is meaningful. The little bits do add up. So it is meaningful. So anyways, listen to the Surfrider podcast. Go to surfrider.org to become a member. And then I'll also give you my must-see moments, Scott. My must-see moment, we didn't mention, but the must-see moments are presented by Trees Wax, which is petroleum-free surf wax, high performance, great surf wax made from rocks and trees. You can get 20% off using promo code SPIT at treeswax.com. Mason Ho, whose YouTube channel has been active for a decade. We don't talk about it often enough. We used to, but he just constantly kind of puts out quality content. He was down in Mexico. Some of his clips from this Mexico trip ended up in Ritualistic Tendencies.
That footage is insane.
Yeah, which you just mentioned. But on that trip, he broke all of his boards. And so he was still there.
This isn't a GoFundMe for Mason Ho's surfboards, is it?
No, but if he broke all of his boards and he asked you to borrow a board, would you lend him a board?
Yes, absolutely.
So did somebody else. So this YouTube clip is him riding a 6'9" Simon Jones. So we love Simon Jones as a shaper. He obviously shapes Torn Martin's surfboards. And when Mason and Coco Ho did the electric acid surfboard test for Stab Magazine, Mason actually picked the Simon Jones as the winner.
That's what popped into my head as well.
Yeah. So that was like a 5'6" Simon Jones. This one is a 6'9", so a much longer board. But I'm going to play one clip for you, the closing clip from his YouTube video of him riding the 6'9" Simon Jones. And just reminds you, dude, ride more foam. This is a wonky wave, but because he's riding a 6'9", the board kind of does most of the work. And Mason's along for the ride, just swinging his arms in a crazy double up. So not the deepest or longest barrel, but a wild wave, and showcases, I think, the virtues of that style of board.
Yeah. That's cool. More foam is your friend.
Look at that board. We love Mason Ho. Twin fins, Simon Jones. There it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, David, we said a lot. Until next time, adios and aloha.